for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or another print disability that makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org. And hello, your Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service now presents a reading of articles and features from the Buffalo News for Monday, June 1st. Your readers today are
Ted Pijacki.
And I'm Ed Howard. And Ted, you may remember a 1945 musical Carousel, which had a song in there called June is Busting Out All Over.
Ah, yes.
And as we look at today's weather, June is busting out all over. It's going to be mostly sunny today with a high of 69, clear to partly cloudy tonight with a low of 47, partly sunny and pleasant tomorrow, high 73, Wednesday, partly sunny and delightful, high of 76. Thursday, partly sunny and pleasant, high 79, and Friday, partly sunny and breezy with a high of 75. Our normal high and low temperatures for today are 72 and 54 degrees. Our record high temperature was 90, set back in 1919, and our record low was 39, set in 1966. And as far as precipitation, we are about 5.5 inches ahead of things for a normal year to date. We've had almost 21 inches, and the normal would be about 15.5 inches. And today, the air quality index is said to be good. So that's the weather. What's in the news?
Well, from our front page today, acrimony is evident on council amid city budget battle. Some fault lines have begun to show on the Common Council, and they've made themselves clear during last week's budget vote. While there is no clear clear block of members who consistently vote against Mayor Sean Ryan, and many council members have been critical of the administration at times, the three members who unsuccessfully introduced an alternative package of amendments that would have brought much larger cuts to next year's spending plan, Council Majority Leader Leah Halton Pope, Council President Pro Tempore Zenita Everhart, and North District Council member Joseph Gołąbek, have emerged as his most vocal critics and have voted against the administration on key issues, especially his budget amendments and the confirmation of Police Commissioner Erica Shields, which narrowly passed with a 5-4 vote. After her colleagues voted in favor of Ryan's amendment package, which brought the tax levy increase down to 19% from the 25.8% included in Ryan's proposed budget, Halton Pope expressed disappointment, at times tearing up during and after the vote, when speaking about the burden it will bring to her poorest constituents. I could not, in good conscience, sit here and just accept anything that was presented to me without a fight, Halton Pope said. Halton Pope also pointed to the low-end salaries for city workers, some of whom make around $40,000. They will not receive pay raises, while top-end positions did receive significant salary bumps. The separate package introduced by Halton Pope, Everhart, and Gołąbek, the only members to vote in favor of those amendments, would have cut more than $24 million from the budget, bringing the tax levy increase below 13%. I'm proud of what we've done, and I apologize to the citizens of the city of Buffalo, Halton Pope said. She continued, I apologize because you deserve better. You deserve somebody who stands up, who fights for you at every single turn, who realizes what you have sacrificed by allowing us to sit in these seats. But several council colleagues said the package would have curtailed the administration's ability to put the city back on solid financial footing, and likely would have limited its ability to continue providing current levels of services. South District Council member Christopher Scanlon said that his time serving as mayor demonstrated to him how dire the need to find new revenue is, and that there are few places to cut. Still, there was no reason to celebrate a budget that would cause financial pain for so many Buffalonians, he said. This is not a win for anybody today, Scanlon said. Unfortunately, we have to remedy some decisions of the past, and unfortunately, that's difficult decisions that we are involved in. But I certainly don't think anyone should be taking a victory lap today. Ryan has been blunt with constituents and council members about the need to bring significant tax revenues to fix Buffalo's structural deficit, which a state comptroller's office review found to be around $103 million. Ryan said he applauds the council members for all the work they put into a difficult budget process, including those who voted against his amendment package. It was a tough budget vote, but it recognized the dire financial straits that I inherited when I came into government, he said. Throughout the budget process, the main focus of council members was lowering Ryan's proposed 25.8% increase to the levy. Every council member wanted it reduced. Some members were also upset about the way they found out about the size of the levy increase. Ryan administration officials had originally circulated an estimated levy increase of 15%. But Ryan, at an unrelated event in March, made public his plan to propose the 25% increase that was included in his proposed budget. Goumba, who has been blunt in his criticisms of Ryan and administration officials, was especially irked to find out about the increase through news reports. They kept saying that they were being transparent, so I assumed that they were, he said during last week's council meeting. And he, Halton Pope, and Everhart were also critical of the move to a 4-deputy mayor system. Previous mayors have operated with 1 or 2, in which each now earns $200,000, a more than $50,000 increase from the previous salary for the position. That, along with several new positions and significant salary increases to other top positions, which all council members voted to approve in December, were a focus of the group as they argued for larger cuts in their amendment package.
Well, our next story says the U.S. Supreme Court is poised to decide major cases in June. The U.S. Supreme Court heads into the final month of its yearly term facing decisions on birthright citizenship, gun rights, transgender athletes, and President Trump's power over independent agencies. Unlike in years past, the term's most significant rulings were not left for the last week in June. The court dealt Trump a major defeat in February by striking down his sweeping worldwide tariffs. The president is likely to suffer a second defeat when the justices reject his plan to revise the citizenship laws via an executive order. Republicans won when the court struck down a Louisiana congressional district that favored a black Democrat. That decision has already shifted several congressional districts towards the GOP, but its greatest impact will be seen in 2028 and 2030. Republicans are likely to prevail in 2 other pending cases. One would free party committees to raise and spend more money to support their candidates. A second would change state laws to bar counting of mail ballots that arrive after Election Day. The justices have 26 cases waiting to be decided before they go on summer recess, and here are the major decision cases up for decision. First, birthright citizenship. Does the 14th Amendment of 1868 mean what it says about who is a citizen? It declares, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States. The Supreme Court upheld that understanding in 1898, ruling that Wong Kim Ark, who was born to Chinese parents in San Francisco, was a U.S. citizen at birth. Congress adopted birthright citizenship in the Immigration and Nationality Acts of 1940 and 1952. But on his first day back in the White House, Trump issued an executive order to deny citizenship to the newborns of parents who were in the country unlawfully or temporarily on a student, work, or tourist visa. Judges blocked the order from taking effect, and in April, the justices gave a skeptical hearing to Trump's lawyers as the president sat in the gallery. The best outcome for Trump would be a ruling that rejects his executive order based on U.S. immigration law alone. Although a defeat, it could, in theory, permit Congress to revise the law and deny citizenships to newborns of so-called birth tourists. On guns and drugs, can the government make it a crime for habitual users of unlawful drugs to have a gun, or does that violate Second Amendment rights? Since 1968, federal law has prohibited gun possession by anyone who, quote, is an unlawful user or addicted to any controlled substance, close quote. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals in a Texas case struck down this provision as unconstitutional, except for someone who is, quote, under an impairing influence, unquote, of drugs at the time of his arrest. The Trump administration appealed and urged the Supreme Court to uphold the law against habitual users of unlawful drugs, including regular users of marijuana. In a second gun rights case, the court will decide whether Hawaii, California, and 3 other states led by Democrats may forbid licensed gun owners from carrying a firearm into stores or private businesses open to the public unless they have the express authorization of the owners. On transgender athletes, can states maintain separate sports teams for boys and girls, quote, based on biological sex determined at birth, close quote, or does excluding transgender girls violate the Title IX law or the Constitution's guarantee of equal protection? The justices heard appeals from West Virginia and Idaho after lower courts ruled that they had discriminated against transgender girls. Most of them sounded ready to rule for the states. The only question was whether the court will rule narrowly to uphold laws in the red states or go further to decide how Title IX applies nationwide. For independent agencies, can the president fire leaders of special agencies who were given a fixed term by Congress? For most of American history, Congress created new boards or commissions with a specific mission, such as regulating railroad rates in the 1880s or nuclear power in the 1970s. By law, these agencies are led by a bipartisan board of experts who had a fixed term and could only be fired for cause. But Trump and the court's conservatives believe the president has the executive authority to control the government and to fire agencies' officials, but with one exception. The majority want to preserve the independence of the Federal Reserve Board. Separately, the court will rule on whether Trump had the power to fire Fed Governor Lisa Cook for cause. He alleged she engaged in mortgage fraud and dismissed her in a social media post. On temporary protected status, can the Trump administration cancel legal protection for more than 300,000 Haitians and Syrians who are living and working in this country? In 1990, Congress created this protected status for foreign nationals who could not return home safely because of armed conflicts or other natural disasters. The Obama administration extended protection to Haitians and Syrians. Last year, Trump's then Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem sought to terminate it, but judges blocked her orders because it was still dangerous and unsafe in those countries. And finally, regarding campaign funds, do the 50-year limits on how much political party committees can raise and spend to directly support their candidates violate the First Amendment. During the Watergate era, Congress adopted limits on money in political campaigns, but the court has struck down the spending limits on free speech grounds. Left standing were the limits on direct contributions to candidates, including to political parties. The court also will rule on the GOP's bid to strike down laws in California and most states that allow for counting mail ballots that were postmarked by Election Day but arrive a few days later.
You are listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier Radio reading service, and the time is 15 minutes after the hour. And now we turn to the opinion section, and we start off with the Buffalo News editorial. And the headline of today's editorial is Vital Network of Help. Familiar headwinds that prevented Catholic Charities of Buffalo from meeting its goal for the annual appeal are again at work. The obstacles: federal government cutbacks, increasing hesitancy among former donors, declining church membership, and concerns about lawsuits surrounding the priest sexual abuse cases, school closings, and church mergers. The reality: the Catholic Charities Appeal 2026 remains behind the $7.4 million raised last year, and the nonprofit needs to get to $8 million to serve constituents who comprise all races, religions, and backgrounds. Catholic Charities of Buffalo, a more than century-old local institution, serves individuals, families, and children across all faiths throughout all 8 counties of western New York. Appeal 2026 still has a fundraising goal of at least $8 million by June 30th. Last year's effort, at $7.4 million, missed its goal, down from $8 million in 2024 and $11.1 million a decade ago. The numbers this year look about the same, about 82% and 86% of the goal, slightly above the $6.6 million. Appeal funding supports and augments specific programs directly impacting their ability to service people through district offices, emergency financial assistance, food pantries, thrift stores, outreach centers, and behavioral health clinics. The appeal is the underpinning resource for virtually everything we do. If we don't have the people and processes and technology in place, we won't be able to get the government contracts that we have, said Chuck Hayes, the Chief Communications and Development Officer for Catholic Charities. Directly affected would be programs that are on a reimbursed rate through government contracts or grants. In years past, roughly $1 in every appeal donation leveraged between $5 and $6 in other programs and grants. Donors should be aware of that number and impact. Many people take a pragmatic approach when it comes to philanthropy. Catholic Charities offers depth and quality in terms of efficiency in the way the dollars are used and the comprehensive nature of services. Catholic Charities in Western New York's most comprehensive human services provider, with programs and services that include behavioral health, basic emergency assistance, food pantries, education, and workforce training, family safety, stabilization programs, immigration and refugee assistance. Catholic Charities supports the entire community, meeting people who are in crisis, people who are in need, and meeting them where they are without judgment or qualification. There is some optimism. Although donor attrition continues, the rate has significantly slowed. This year, there are a little more than 1,000 fewer donors than during the same time in 2025. Year over year, the average attrition on this date is 2,471 fewer donors. There is an uptick in the pace of pledges and gifts over the past few weeks. Online donations and overall, a response to the reminder mailing sent at the midpoint of the appeal. Historically, at this time of year, those numbers fade, so there is hope. The hope is that pledges come before June 30th, which is the end of the fiscal year. These donations will represent the resources Catholic Charities has to help as many people as possible. In 2024, the organization was able to touch the lives of more than 147,000 Western New Yorkers. But in 2025, after raising only $7.4 million, it was only a little more than 135,000 Western New Yorkers. Catholic Charities can only help as many people as resources allow. To give, you can visit ccwny.org/donate or call 716-218-1400. In addition, donors can give by scanning a QR code found on appeal materials. Or if you or someone you know needs assistance, you can call 716-218-1400 to find help through the Catholic Charities Service.
Well, next we turn to the Another Voice column, and today the topic is healthcare. The headline is State Can't Afford to Impose More Mandates, and the writer is Lev Ginsburg, who is the executive director of the New York State Conference of Blue Cross and Blue Shield Plans. He writes, as the dust settles on another protracted budget cycle in Albany, a familiar legislative activity is beginning in earnest. Legislators, having finished the state spending plan, are now turning their attention to the post-budget legislative session. For those of us who pay close attention to health care, this period could be named mandate season. Dozens of bills are currently moving through committees, each promising to expand coverage for a specific treatment, drug, or service. When we look at the sheer volume of these proposed requirements, each with its own price tag, the picture changes from one of enhanced care to one of ever-eroding affordability. New York is already a national leader in the sheer number of state-imposed insurance mandates. As of this year, the state imposes over 70 distinct mandates on private insurance plans. Every time a new mandate is signed into law, it adds to the price of coverage for all of us. The cumulative effect of so many mandates is staggering. The timing of this legislative push could not be worse. New Yorkers are currently weathering a perfect storm of rising hospital prices and pharmaceutical costs, both of which are far outpacing wage growth. This is in addition to the fact that New York already levies billions in taxes on health insurance through the Health Care Reform Act, now at $7.1 billion annually tacked onto your premium bill. The New York State Conference of Blue Cross and Blue Shield Plans has been clear. New Yorkers are facing a real-time affordability crisis. When a mandate is passed, the cost doesn't vanish, it is shifted directly onto the policyholder. This translates to higher monthly premiums, increased out-of-pocket costs, and less flexibility in what plans you can purchase. As lawmakers debate these dozens of bills in the coming weeks, we should demand that they consider whether New York families can really afford another premium hike. Instead, the legislature should focus on addressing the root causes of healthcare cost inflation, hospital system consolidation, the soaring prices of providers, and incredibly expensive prescription drugs. Let's insist that Albany trades mandate season for a new season of healthcare affordability.
Our editorial cartoon today comes to us from Steve Breen, and it's really a very minimalist image here. It's a road, a winding road at the top of a mountain, and coming around the curve on the mountain is a red sports car racing away. And at the edge of the road, just before a deep fall all the way down, are some very, very small guardrails. And the only thing on the image here, besides that, is the letters AI for artificial intelligence pointing to the racing car, and the guardrails are just pointed out as small guardrails. So it's kind of the debate that's going on right now and the controls on artificial intelligence. And we'll have an article later on this morning that'll talk a little bit more about that concern right now.
Well, next we're going to turn to the political columns, and our first comes from Daniel DePetris, who writes for the Chicago Tribune, and his headline is, "Pentagon's approach to the war on drugs is flashy, but ineffective." He writes, "On May 16th, the United States found and killed Abu Bilal al-Meniki, a top Islamic State commander in Nigeria. The precision operation in the northeast of Africa's most populous country came about a week after President Trump's administration released its new counterterrorism strategy. As one might expect, combating the Islamic State and al-Qaeda, the usual suspects for Washington's vast counterterrorism apparatus, is treated as a top priority in the 16-page document. What's more notable is the strategy's focus on the drug cartels and smaller criminal groups that have proliferated in the Western Hemisphere. In both words and deeds, Washington is elevating Mexico's drug trafficking organizations and Ecuador's gangs to the same plane as the Islamic State gunmen who roam the Syrian desert. In doing so, Trump has expanded the war on terrorism to encompass the war on drugs. We will not let cartels, jihadists, or governments who support them plot against our citizens with impunity," Trump wrote in the report's introduction. "Terrorists of any kind will not be allowed to find safe harbor here, at home, or attack us from abroad." The Trump administration has made good on this threat by increasing the U.S. military's role in the counter-drug fight. In September, the Pentagon announced Operation Southern Spear, a series of U.S. strikes against boats in the Caribbean and Eastern Pacific that allegedly were carrying drugs to the United States. According to the latest tally by the New York Times, the U.S. has conducted a total of 57 strikes, killing approximately 200 people in the process. Trump alleges, falsely, that the strikes have reduced seabound drug traffic into the United States by an astounding 97%. Ecuador has become one of the most dangerous countries in the Western Hemisphere thanks to drug gangs and is now a testing ground for Trump administration's militarized approach. Since March, U.S. Special Operations Forces have been advising and enabling Ecuadorian military as it seeks to disrupt trafficking routes along the Pacific coastline and capture high-profile gang leaders. As much as the White House would like to claim vindication, Washington's blending of the war on drugs with the war on terrorism is not actually having a positive impact. In the 7 months before the U.S. boat strikes commenced, nearly 38,000 pounds of cocaine were seized by U.S. Customs and Border Protection. In the 7 months since the boat strikes, Border Patrol agents seized slightly more than 44,000 pounds. In brief, the strikes are failing to stem drug trafficking into the U.S., and military pressure is not altering the traffickers' strategic calculus as the White House anticipated. Is U.S. military involvement in Ecuador producing better results? It depends on how you define success. For Ecuadorian President Daniel Noboa, the Trump administration's anti-cartel strategy is a net benefit because it supports his own domestic efforts against the country's gang network. In Noboa's estimation, homicides in Ecuador declined by 28% from February to March. This suggests Washington's train and assist mission is helping Ecuadorian's army plan and execute operations in parts of the country that were previously off limits. Fortunately, it's not too late to change course. A better U.S. strategy would start with a fundamental premise: cartels are not terrorist groups, and treating them as such will create more problems than it solves. Those problems could come in the form of more civilian casualties with a loosening of the rules of engagement and investment in military approach, a more draconian security policy overall, including states of emergency and due process limitations. Without a basic shift in outlook, Washington's anti-drug approach abroad will remain flashy, but ultimately ineffective.
You are listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier radio reading service. The time is 30 minutes after the hour. And our final opinion piece comes to us from Abby McCloskey of the Bloomberg Opinion Group. And the headline is, 1990 summer breaks were far better for both kids and their mothers. For most moms I know, summer is a mixed bag. It's not hard to understand why. For mothers without access to flexible or remote work, summer break is associated with a significant drop in earnings and work hours. This tightens already tight family budgets and adds to the gender pay gap, as fathers don't tend to reduce work hours in the summer. Then there's the financial and administrative obligation of patching together camps that cost hundreds of dollars per week per child. Because I normally miss the first hour of sign-up in the depths of January, my boys are the ones stuck in line dancing and weaving lessons instead of the hit camps like Lego building or zoology. Then there's learning loss. Studies find that students backslide by about 20% over the summer, and more in lower income families. This has always been worrisome, but it's even more concerning these days when many students' literacy levels and math abilities are faltering. So for those of us who can, summer comes with supplemental workbooks, reading lists, and activity kits. Mommy school, as we call it. No wonder most mothers feel a swell of panic come May. No wonder there are suggestions for year-round school, and indeed, many public schools now offer some type of summer programming. But while most discussions around summer break tend to be about how to fix summer, there's also a defense of summer to be made. And it's not just the longer, sunnier days. Time use surveys suggest that summer break provides a much-needed respite for mothers in particular. According to a study in the Journal of Economic Behavior and Organization, when school is in session, mothers of 6 to 11-year-old children lose 35 minutes of sleep, lose roughly the same amount of free time, and spend an additional 52 minutes a day caring for others each and every day. Over the course of a week, that adds up to a whole waking day that, presto changeo, returns to American mothers in the summer. Dads also gain some extra time, but only a third of as much as the mothers, and parents of 12 to 17-year-olds see much smaller time use changes. According to time use data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, in the summer, moms travel more, exercise more, spend more time eating and drinking, and volunteer more. Time spent as the primary caregiver for children during the rush hours of 6:30 to 7:30 a.m. and 3 to 5 p.m. goes way down, by which I mean the intense supervision that comes with homework, piano practice, or trying to get kids out the door in the morning. Instead, mothers are more likely to be doing other activities in the home while children occupy themselves. Children similarly benefit from the summer schedule when time use surveys show they have more free time, get more exercise, and sleep longer. And here, I thought that stacking camps and activities into summer break would give me a break. Turns out there was something to be said about those 1990 summers when every minute was not scheduled. Growing up, summer vacation felt, as most things do these days related to motherhood, much less intense. To be sure, there was a major built-in structural difference. My mother was a stay-at-home mom, but although she'd take us to the library, to the neighborhood pool, or out on errands, most of my summer memories are unsupervised, with large chunks spent in front of the television or out with friends. If my mom had a secret remote job, I'm not sure I would have known. And it was glorious. Which is why this year I'm bringing the 1990 summer's break back. No jigsaw puzzle of camp schedules. The kids have access to a landline phone and their bikes. I'm going to, or attempt to, work out while kids occupy themselves. Admittedly, that part is easier now that we don't have a toddler in the home. I know that I am lucky for the flexibility to be able to work this way. Many parents don't. What we once took for granted, slow summers, is now another luxury. Summer will still come with its share of struggles. Ask me again in August if I'm ready for summer to be over and how much more sleep I got. But for those of us who are able to this summer, there's something to be said about the looser schedule, the fewer rushed mornings, the more unstructured time spent outside. There's something to be said about those 1990 summers, especially for mothers.
Well, next we have a story from the World Health Organization that 4 nurses who had Ebola have recovered. 4 nurses who were being treated for Ebola caused by the Bundibugyo strain of the virus were discharged from a hospital in Bunia in the Democratic Republic of Congo after recovering from the disease, the World Health Organization said on Sunday. More recoveries are expected, especially when people are diagnosed early and able to access care as the response to the outbreak intensifies. A laboratory worker who had recovered earlier in the week, the agency said, bringing the total number of people who have recovered from the virus to 5. However, suspected cases are being looked into Brazil and Italy, tied to travel-affected nations. The number of confirmed Ebola cases in the country has increased to 282, with 42 deaths after 19 new positive tests were recorded, according to data distributed by the Communications Ministry. Earlier this month, the World Health Organization declared the outbreak caused by the rare Bundibugyo version of the virus in the Democratic Republic of Congo and Uganda a public health emergency of international concern, although it does not meet the criteria of a pandemic emergency. World Health Organization Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, while on Saturday visit to Bunia, the capital of the eastern Congolese province of Ituri, noted that although there is no licensed vaccine or treatment for Ebola caused by the virus, it is not without hope, and it can be survived with good medical care.
And in the war in Ukraine, drones hit targets deep in Russia. Ukrainian drones struck targets across several Russian regions overnight, including an oil pipeline pumping station, a refinery, and a fuel depot, Russian and Ukrainian authorities said on Sunday, in an escalating campaign of strikes against energy infrastructure, often hundreds of miles inside of Russia. Ukraine's general staff said it struck the Saratov oil refinery on the Volga River, causing a large fire. Saratov Regional Governor Roman Bazargin said in a telegram that civil infrastructure was damaged in the strike, but gave no more details. During the night, our soldiers applied Ukraine's long-range sanctions against an oil refinery in Saratov, Russia. This is about 700 kilometers from the front line, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky said. Not all of the drones struck their targets. Russia's defense minister said it downed 216 drones overnight. Kiev said it also struck the Lazarevo pumping station at the Kirov region northeast of Moscow and about 800 miles from Ukrainian-held territory, which serves the Surgut-Gorky-Polsk pipeline, shipping Russian oil from Siberia to Belarus. Kirov Regional Governor Alexander Sokolov said drones had hit a facility in the region, but gave no further information.
Well, here's some good news in the Elmwood district, and that is that the Elmwood Crossing project is approaching a final phase. The Ellicott development prepares to begin demolition and cleanup at the former hospital site. For decades, the former Women and Children's Hospital was a focal point of the neighborhood that surrounded it off Elmwood Avenue. When it closed 8 years ago, it left a huge void that forced nearby businesses to adapt to the loss of hospital customers they depended on and reshaped the neighborhood with hulking buildings that sat vacant. A handful of smaller projects helped revitalize some of the outlying and secondary buildings over the last few years as part of the $150 million Elmwood Crossing project. But the core hospital remained mostly empty and untouched. That could be changing soon, however, as one of the developers behind the Elmwood Crossing project is getting close to tackling the biggest part of the development, the 3 main towers of the century-old hospital complex. The firm, Ellicott Development Company, hopes to start preliminary demolition and cleanup work on the hospital site late this summer, CEO William Palladino said. But there are still hurdles to clear on this portion of the project, estimated to cost between $50 and $60 million. The biggest challenge is financing, which officials are still working to line up. They're hoping to have it in place in the fall, but they're counting on federal and state historic tax credits to help carry the load. And Palladino said they're still deciding exactly how they will use some of the space, particularly on the first and second floors. But if all goes well, work would start in early 2027, with completion in 18 to 24 months after that, more than 10 years after the hospital moved to a new facility on the Buffalo Niagara Medical Campus and after Kaleida Health sold the 8-acre property. That's our goal that we're working for, Palladino said. That is what the hospital's neighbors have been waiting to hear, but longtime skeptics such as Joel Lips still question Ellicott's plan and its ability to get the project done, especially with the problems many developers, including Ellicott, have been having with financing in today's market. It's been approximately 10 years, and the overwhelming percentage of the children's campus is still undeveloped, Lips said. What guarantee exists that the property will be developed soon? What guarantee exists that the development will be in keeping with this residential neighborhood? The plans for the Alferio, Tanner, and Variety Towers have changed over the years and continue to evolve even now as Ellicott and its partner, Nick Sinatra's Sinatra & Company Real Estate, have faced challenges with higher costs and financing, including a doubling of interest rates, as well as a radically different business climate and market since 2018. That has forced them to make changes to parts of the Elmwood Crossing plan. In the case of the towers, gone are the condominiums on the upper 3 floors, replaced with more rental units, and there are apartments. The amount of commercial space has been reduced by a third because there is much less demand. A boutique hotel also was dropped. So instead of 135 apartments and condos with 94,000 square feet of commercial space, plans for the towers now call for about 200 market-rate apartments with a mix of 1, 2, and 3-bedroom units across the 3 buildings, along with up to 60,000 square feet of commercial space. Some of the apartments could be furnished corporate units or short-term rentals, although that is still to be decided. The first floor will have a gym or fitness center and some type of grab-and-go food service, and there will be a common lounge area as well as an undefined rooftop feature for the tenants. Meanwhile, Ellicott has struggled to fill the commercial space with larger office tenants, so Palladino said they might break it up into smaller spaces that are easier to market. Palladino said the financing package will be complex, with multiple lenders needed to share in the loan and reduce their individual risk. It's very tough ever since COVID to get any one bank to look at large loans in this area, he said. He's hoping that construction costs, including for labor, will start to come down now that the Buffalo Bills' new stadium is virtually complete. We'd like to see lower rates before we lock in everything, Palladino added. Although interest rates have been rising since the start of the war in Iran, that's been a holdup on a lot of the projects we have, construction costs and rates. And that is why Lips suggested that either the developers or the city should demolish the towers and either create shovel-ready new home sites for townhomes or sell off the valuable land to smaller developers. The start of work on the core hospital buildings, the 10-story Variety, 9-story Tanner, and the Alfiero, would mark a final phase of the long transformation that has been in the work for nearly 15 years when Kaleida first unveiled plans to move the hospital to the new Oishei Children's Hospital on the medical campus, which opened in 2017.
And our next article is related to today's editorial cartoon about that sports car with AI racing down with small guardrails. The headline is, Pope Leo's encyclical warns of AI's dehumanizing effects. What are humans worth when the work and thoughts they produce threaten to be replicated by technological algorithms? And what is AI worth if in the end it does not benefit humanity? With his first major document as head of the Catholic Church, Pope Leo XIV has produced a tremendously significant and ultimately hopeful treatise addressing the moral questions posed by artificial intelligence, while stressing the need to center humans as the rapid developing technology progresses, church observers said. The eagerly awaited encyclical from the first U.S.-born pope, titled Magnificat Humanitas, meaning magnificent humanity, waxed joyfully on the glory of humanity, urged that AI benefit the common good, called on policymakers to protect workers' rights and to keep kids safe amid AI's proliferation, and pressed for strict regulation of AI systems to halt the spread of misinformation, conflict, and war. Pope Leo's encyclical asks the right questions of an industry that has so far been better at building first and considering consequences later, said Marco Trombetti, the founder of Translated, a Rome-based AI company partnering with the Vatican to use AI technology to translate masses at St. Peter's Basilica in real time. In the 43,000-word document that was released May 25th, the Pope encouraged robust legal frameworks, independent oversight, informed users, and a political system that does not abdicate its responsibility. He called for more active political involvement, capable of slowing things down when everything is accelerating. Paolo Carozzi, a professor of law at the University of Notre Dame in South Bend, Indiana, called the document profound and prophetic. By characterizing ideas such as dignity of work, the limits of automation, and the use of AI in warfare, not as abstractions but necessary considerations for anyone developing AI technology, he said, the Pope's treatise, he said, will prove to be the defining document for our era. Ethics cannot be an afterthought, Carozza said. It has to be at the starting point, shaping how these systems are built, governed, and deployed. While acknowledging artificial intelligence as a tool of enormous potential, but one that has spawned unemployment fears, privacy concerns, and questions of self-worth, the encyclical nonetheless strikes an optimistic tone, framing the technology as an instrument meant to serve, not replace, human beings. Some said the encyclical was especially welcome, given what Carozza characterized as a real vacuum of moral leadership on the global stage. In the document, Leo leaned on his Augustinian foundations, noting St. Augustine's description of human history as a struggle between two cities, or two ways of inhabiting the world with others. One focused on the love of God and neighbor, and the other on the exclusive love of self.
Well, normally at this time we turn to death listings in the paper, but As has been the case recently on Mondays, there are no death listings reported today, so we're going to move on to Georgia Nichols' Royal Stars. And if today is your birthday, happy birthday. According to Ms. Nichols, you are inquisitive. You're inquisitive, not impulsive, inquisitive. You are intrigued by human behavior. You're also progressive and affectionate. This year, you will reap the benefits of all your hard work. Expect power and leadership. Now, the stars show the kind of day you're going to have. 5 stars is a dynamic day. 4 stars is a positive day. 3 stars, an average day. 2 is so-so, and 1 is difficult. Fortunately, everybody this day is having 3 and 4 star days. We'll start with Aries, who is having a 4-star day. For the next month, home and family will be a stronger focus for you. Family discussions will take place, and you will explore doing repairs. Tonight, you're admired. For us Taurians, we're having a 3-star day. With fiery Mars in our sign, we have the energy to work and accomplish what we want to do. Tonight, we should explore and learn. For Gemini, a 3-star day, this is a strong time for you because the sun is in your sign. It's your turn to recharge your batteries. Tonight, check your finances. For Cancer, 3 stars. Today, Mercury enters your sign to stay until it goes retrograde on the 29th. Tonight, listen and cooperate. For Leo, you're having a 4-star day. You're popular this week, which means you'll be more involved with friends, groups, and organizations. Tonight, you should work and get organized. For Virgo, 3 stars. You make a favorable impression on everyone this week. Today, Mercury moves into your house of friendships to stay for the next 6 weeks, highlighting group ideals and standards. So tonight, socialize. For Libra, 4 stars, you're eager for a change of scenery and a chance to break free of your routine, which is why many of you want to travel. But tonight, you should relax at home. For Scorpio, 3 stars, continue to be patient with partners, close friends, and spouses while fiery Mars is opposite your sign this month. Tonight, you're going to have a lively discussion. For Sagittarius, 4 stars. Remember that you need more rest this month. Nevertheless, Mars will compensate by boosting your energy to work and accomplish a lot. Tonight, check your money. For Capricorn, 3 stars. You're keen to work hard and get things done. However, you also want to socialize and get involved with competitive sports, and tonight, you win. And for Aquarius, 4 stars. The tone of the next several weeks is pleasure and fun. Socialize as much as possible, but tonight, enjoy privacy. And finally, for Pisces, 3 stars, home and family are your focus. Nevertheless, travel appeals to your conversations and with others. They'll be enthusiastic. So tonight, you should be friendly.
Well, as we move on to a new month here on June 1st, let's go backwards today in history to find out what else has happened on June 1st throughout the years. In 1533, Anne Boleyn, the second wife of Henry VIII, was crowned Queen of England. She reigned for 3 years before she was executed by beheading for treason. In 1792, Kentucky became the 15th state. In 1868, Navajo Nation was established, and its war with the U.S. government ended in the signing of the Treaty of Bosque Redondo, which recognized Navajo's national sovereignty and allowed them to return to what is now the Four Corners region. In 1916, lawyer Louis Brandeis became the first Jewish person appointed to the U.S. Supreme Court, serving until 1939. In 1962, Nazi war criminal Adolf Eichmann was hanged in Israel. As a section chief of the Reich Security Main Office, he had overseen the deportation of 1.5 million Jews from across Europe to death camps in Nazi-occupied territories. In 1969, John Lennon and Yoko Ono recorded Give Peace a Chance at the Queen Elizabeth Hotel in Montreal. In 1980, cable news network, also known as CNN, began broadcasting. The business, co-founded by Ted Turner and Reese Schonfeld, were the first TV channel to show news 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. 1988, the European Central Bank was founded in Brussels, Belgium. And in 2011, the Space Shuttle Endeavour landed for the final time after its 25th mission in space.
Well, a couple notes from our political notebook. First, former Vice President Mike Pence said it's, quote, deeply offensive, unquote, that a new $1.8 billion settlement fund created by the Trump administration to resolve the president's lawsuit against the Internal Revenue Service could be used to pay participants of the January 6, 2021 Capitol riot. The Justice Department said the fund would be used to compensate claims alleging political motivation of legal cases under a settlement resolving Trump's $10 billion lawsuit over the 2019 disclosure of his tax records. I think that the weaponization fund, it's a bad idea from the start, and I would encourage the administration to just drop it, Pence said Sunday on NBC's Meet the Press. It's deeply offensive to me that you could have a fund that could even possibly compensate people who assaulted police officers or vandalized the Capitol on January 6th. Pence was presiding at the U.S. Capitol during the attempt by Trump supporters to violently stop the certification of the 2020 election for Joe Biden. Some rioters set up scaffolds and threatened to hang the vice president while he and his family hid during the attack. The Justice Department has the ability to settle cases, Pence said Sunday, but let's get rid of this fund. Pence joins a growing number of Republicans who have condemned the deal as improper. In Washington, we don't need slush funds to settle cases, Pence said Sunday on CBS's Face the Nation, adding it's appropriate for the department to consider settlements for individual cases where people's rights have been violated. And Trump adds Iraq to Barrack's role. President Trump said he's expanding the scope of his special envoy to Syria, Tom Barrack, to include Iraq. Barrack, the U.S. ambassador to Turkey, became Trump's Syria envoy in 2025, soon after President Ahmed al-Sharaa took power. His now renewed appointment to a post that had expired on Friday. As we advance our strategic cooperation with the governments of Syria and Iraq, our relationship with them continues to grow, Trump said in a post-social post on Sunday. The U.S. restored diplomatic relations with Syria after the ouster of former leader Bashar al-Assad.
You are listening to a reading of articles from the Buffalo News for Monday, June 1st. On your Niagara Frontier radio reading service. We'll return for some more readings after this short break. Your readers today are
Ed Howard
and Ted Pajacki.
If you're listening to this publication online, you're probably using our website, a podcast player like Spotify or iTunes, a streaming service like Siro, or a smart speaker. Did you know that we now have a dedicated app that can be downloaded to any mobile device, like a smartphone or tablet, for free? App users can conveniently access our live stream and any episode of our podcast easier than ever. To download the app, just type NFRRS in the search window in the Apple App Store or in the Google Play Store. Contact us anytime if you have any questions by calling 716-821-5555, extension 5. Thank you.
And we'll continue now with our reading of articles from today's Buffalo News. And today's readers are
Ed Howard.
and Ted Pajacki. And we turn now to local and regional news. And the state budget would not win by partisan support, with some exceptions. Western New York lawmakers voted almost entirely along party lines on the $268 billion state budget that Governor Kathy Hochul signed into law last week. But an education-related bill was an exception for some Republicans. Every Democrat in the region's 19-member delegation to the state capitol voted yes on all 10 budget bills within the spending plan. Every Republican in the region voted no on 7 of the bills. The exceptions were mostly in last week's vote on the Education, Labor, and Family Assistance Bill, which received yes votes from Senate Minority Leader Robert Ort, Senator George Borrello, and Assembly members Stephen Hawley and Patrick Shedlinski. Shedlinski also voted in favor of the Transportation, Economic Development, and Environmental Conservation Bill and the Capital Projects Bill, making it the second consecutive year the first-term lawmaker broke from the GOP on a number of budget bills. And in March, when a debt service bill that is part of the budget passed, Senator Patrick Gallivan voted for it. Other than that, local Republicans who sit in the minority in both houses voted against the budget negotiated behind closed doors by the 3 most powerful figures in state government, all of whom are Democrats: Hochul, Assembly Speaker Carl Heastie, and Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart Cousins. Hochul, who faces an election in November against Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman, who is a Republican, introduced her executive budget on January 20th. Focused on ways to address soaring costs facing inflation-weary New Yorkers, lawmakers conducted a series of budget hearings. The Democratic majority in each house proposed its own spending plan in March. The budget had been due by April 1st. Its tardiness meant legislators could not be paid. State law withholds their paychecks while the budget is late. It just, to me, fails to address any of the objectives that the governor or the majority of our conference laid out at the start of this process, Ort said following the last budget vote. And here we are 2 months late, and I feel that we failed on all those major objectives. Are there good things in there? Of course. At $268 billion, something is going to be good in there. But I think on the whole, this budget fails to address the major issue facing New Yorkers, which is affordability of New York State, Ort said. Ort criticized immigration reform in the Public Protection and General Government Bill that will bar local and state law enforcement agencies from making agreements with federal agencies to allow their officers to take part in civil immigration actions. The Education, Labor, and Family Assistance budget, the lone budget bill that Ort, Borrello, and Hawley supported, included Hochul's initiative to provide child care through pre-kindergarten for all 4-year-olds in the state by the start of the 2028 school year. It also will delay implementation of the required electric school buses across the state by 5 years. Shedlinski's votes supports the bill, as well as the Transportation, Economic Development, and Environmental Conservation Bill that included Hochul's auto insurance reforms. Facing strong opposition from the trial lawyer lobby and fellow Democrats, the governor negotiated a new law that will prevent litigants found to be more than 50% responsible for auto-related crashes to collect legal damages for pain and suffering. The same budget bill moves back the timeline for the state to meet lower emission targets. Under the 2019 Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, New York had been required to lower pollution-linked emissions 40% by 2030 and 85% by 2050. The budget changed that timeline to 60% by 2040 while maintaining the target of 85% by 2050. The state will also use a less restrictive accounting formula to assess emissions than the system they had been using. At a time when so many New Yorkers are struggling with rising costs, housing instability, food insecurity, and unequal access to opportunity, I'm proud to have fought for investments that will strengthen our communities and help address long-standing inequities across Buffalo, Cheektowaga, Lackawanna, communities throughout New York State, Senator April Baskins said in a statement.
Our next story is headlined, Court Rejects Bid to Dismiss Indictment in Murder Case. A woman accused of killing her 90-year-old grandmother in 2021 remains out on bail after the state's highest court last week rejected another attempt to have her indictment dismissed. The Court of Appeals, in a 5-2 decision, ruled a lower appellate court made the right decision last year to reinstate murder charges against Jamie and L. Harris, age 44. The 5 judges disagreed with Harris defense attorneys who argued Erie County prosecutors were required to charge Harris with murder before she pleaded guilty to gun possession charges that stem from the same incident on Highgate Avenue in November 2021. Harris defense attorneys intended to argue that she was not legally responsible for the killing of Catherine Jones because of Harris' mental state at the time. She pleaded guilty to gun possession in November of 2022 and was charged with Jones' slaying in May of 2023. Erie County Judge Kenneth Case dismissed the original murder case in October 2023. Buffalo police responded on the morning of November 1, 2021 to the Highgate resident for the report of a woman having a mental health episode. Jones was found dead in her living room, shot in the chest. Police found Harris in the home along with a revolver, a pistol, and a disassembled shotgun. The charges Harris pleaded guilty to related to the pistol and the revolver, the latter of which was determined to be the weapon used to kill Jones. Neighbors and family members told police Harris had a history of mental health issues according to the Court of Appeals ruling. Neighbors also told investigators they heard gunshots the night before police arrived at the home. An evidence suppression hearing had been scheduled for Friday, but was adjourned at the request of Harris defense attorneys. In court on Friday, Gene Partridge, Homicide Bureau Chief for the District Attorney's Office, asked the judge to hold Harris in custody without bail due to the Court of Appeals ruling, which he argued made her a flight risk. Defense attorney Tom Hubish argued that Harris has known for years that she would have to be back in court facing a charge for her grandmother's death, yet she's never fled the area. This murder charge has been hanging over Miss Harris' head for years at this point, Hubish said. Since she was sentenced to probation on the gun charge, Harris has completed 4 semesters at SUNY Erie, attends counseling sessions, and has not had any issues related to the terms of her probation, he said. Case rejected the prosecution's request and kept her bail at $75,000 cash or bond. I don't think she could be doing any better than she's been doing, the judge said. Parties are due back in court for a rescheduled hearing date on July 17th. In the majority opinion of the Court of Appeals case, Judge Jenny Rivera wrote that the issue the panel was deciding was, quote, whether the offenses of simple possession of the revolver on November 21st and the murder with the revolver on November 20th constitute the same criminal transaction. The court majority said they weren't. A dissenting opinion by Chief Judge Rowan Wilson, with Judge Shirley Troutman concurring, concluded state law prohibits separate prosecutions for the gun possession and the murder because the gun possession, quote, was so closely related in time and circumstance to the murder.
And finally, in local news, we have this headline. Plan to close nursing home in Springville is very sad. The 80-bed Jenny B. Richmond Nursing Home in Springville is planning to close by late summer, which will be at least the 5th skilled nursing facility closure to hit Western New York in the last 2.5 years. Labor Union 1199 SEIU United Healthcare Workers East, which represents about 40 workers at the Jenny B. Richmond Nursing Home, said its leadership found out the state health department has already approved a plan for the nursing home to close. The union notified its members of the news on Friday. It is very sad news for residents, community, and the workers, Lucille Schindler, a licensed practical nurse, said in a statement issued by the 1199 SEIU. We are devastated. No one thought this would happen. Most of us have worked and lived here for a very long time. These residents are like our family, and their families have become our families. Our staff is very caring, very loving, and we are dedicated to our residents. I'm so distraught that my residents must endure a move to another home. Officials with Bertrand Chaffee Hospital, the nonprofit that operates the nursing home, did not respond to an inquiry seeking comment. The state health department confirmed late Friday that it approved the voluntary closure plan submitted by Jenny B. Richmond Nursing Home. The target closure date, according to the voluntary plan, is August 31st, though the nursing home can continue operations beyond that date. It must remain open and operational until the last resident is safely discharged. The department's priority throughout the closure process is to ensure the health, safety, and well-being of residents, said the health department, adding that closure plans are given a thorough review and must prioritize the residents' right to choose their next home and services that they will receive. As of early February, which is the most recent date available in the state's health database, Jenny B. Richmond Nursing Home had an available capacity of 43 beds. That indicates the nursing home was about half full. It wasn't immediately clear how many total employees work at the nursing home, but the Labor Department requires businesses that employ at least 50 full-time employees to give workers 90 days prior to a closure, in accordance with the State Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notification Act. The union said it is not aware of a warrant being filed yet, and no notice was listed online as of Friday. Since 2024, Western New York has seen several nursing home closures, including Lutheran Services of Upstate New York's 148-bed nursing home in Jamestown, Weinberg Campus 180-bed, Rosa Copland Living Center in Amherst, the 120-bed Absolute Care of Westfield, and the 120-bed Heritage Village Rehabilitation and Skilled Nursing Facility in Gary. In 2024, the Jenny B. Richmond Chaffee Nursing Home lost about $800,000 on revenues of $4.9 million, according to the nonprofit's most recent annual report with the Internal Revenue Service. The nursing home also lost money in 2023, 2022, and 2021. It last recorded net income in 2020 with a $383,514 profit.
You're listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier Radio reading service, and the time is 14 minutes past the hour, and time now to turn to sports, and we're going to start with football. And the headline here is, Bills defensive tackle T.J. Sanders believes the best is ahead in a new defensive scheme. The Buffalo Bills made a sizable investment in T.J. Sanders, trading up in the second round to draft him number 41 overall in 2025. Along with that comes expectations that, Sanders admits, were not met during an injury-plagued rookie season. There is a chip on my shoulder for sure, Sanders told the Buffalo News after a recent spring practice. I would say I do have something to prove to myself and everyone else out there. I didn't live up to the expectations that I have for myself last year, and I don't plan on letting that happen again. A knee injury sidelined Sanders for 5 games early in his rookie season. That is challenging enough both mentally and physically, but when he returned from injury, the Bills were forced to play Sanders out of position at defensive end because of a run of injuries. Prior to his injury, Sanders had worked exclusively at defensive tackle in the Bills' 4-3 scheme. Lots of growing pains coming in. Felt like I was building on something that I had found early on before the injury, he told reporters last week. That kinda just took me out of my head. Being able to come back and get told you're going to play defensive end, it's kinda like, oh man, trying to pick that up, learn all the things that DNs have to do. Coming in, I just feel like it was, honestly, a testament to my hard work and the things I had to give up and bring in. Sanders had to trust that his knee would allow him to quickly get off the line of scrimmage, which is the strength of his game. Never having a knee injury in his career also led to some significant moments of angst, but Sanders was able to push through that. He got his first NFL sack in Bills' Week 18 win over the New York Jets in the final game played in the old Highmark Stadium. If there is a silver lining for Sanders, it can be found in the versatility that he showcased by switching positions. That proved to be especially helpful as the Bills' new defensive coaching staff, led by coordinator Jim Lenhart, evaluated Sanders' fit in the team's new 3-4 scheme. It definitely helps. You cannot get a substitute for playing time on Sundays, so every rep is huge for young players to get out there and learn and grow from, Leonard said. Obviously, as coaches, it gives you something to evaluate and try to have a better picture of where they're going to fit. He's a guy that's really excited about the changes in the defense and what he thinks his role will be in it. He'll continue to grow and build what's going to be throughout the offseason and camp as well. The Bills traded draft picks number 56, 62, and 109 to Chicago in exchange for numbers 41, 72, and 240. That type of investment speaks to a player that is being counted on to develop into a starter. Sanders will have that opportunity this season. It wouldn't be surprising to see the Bills enter training camp with Sanders, Ed Oliver, and Deion Walker, a 4th-round pick in 2025, as their 3 starters along the defensive line. I definitely feel like I'm coming in with much more confidence, Sanders said. I kind of know what to expect this year, seeing things all last year, multiple positions, having an awareness of what to really prepare for going into the season. Every rookie who enters the NFL has a lot thrown at them, but going through an injury and a position switch made that particularly true for Sanders. It quickly taught him the importance of having a consistent approach and the need for a routine that followed him from the classroom to the training room to the field. Everything you do, do it 100%, Sanders said. Make every day as perfect as possible because this thing can get taken away from us in the blink of an eye. Sanders' teammates never wavered in their belief, which helped him keep his confidence up in the dark days. Now, he feels like he's playing in a scheme that will best use his capabilities. I really feel like it's going to allow some guys who weren't able to really showcase what they can do last year really to come into their own in this new scheme, he said. I feel like for a lot of guys it's made for them. Wherever you need to play, you should be able to do it all over the D-line.
And then switching now to basketball, the San Antonio Spurs versus the New York Nets. Who has the edge in the NBA Finals? The San Antonio Spurs will take on the New York Knicks in the 2026 Finals. It'll be a rematch of the 1999 Finals when the Spurs beat the Knicks 4-1. It was the Spurs' first championship and New York's last Finals appearance. Victor Wembanyama, also known as Wemby, and the Spurs advanced to the Finals after winning the Western Conference Finals in Game 7 on Saturday. Wemby led the way with 20-plus points in each of the 7 games against Oklahoma City Thunder. It will be the Western Conference Finals MVP's first trip to the NBA playoffs, following a season in which the projection of his career was in jeopardy after being diagnosed with deep vein thrombosis, a condition that involves blood clots. It will also be Jalen Brunson's first Finals appearance. Brunson averaged 26 points and 6.8 assists for the Knicks this season. The Spurs and Knicks played a 2-game series during the regular season. Each team won a game. Here's who has the edge in the NBA Finals series. First, the backcourt. The Knicks will have the advantage in the backcourt because of Brunson until proven otherwise. The Spurs backcourt, led by Stephen Castle and veteran De'Aaron Fox, did show they have the defensive mindset and scheme to stop a player of Brunson's caliber after leaving Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the back-to-back league MVP, frustrated at times during the Western Conference Finals. So the evaluation is that the edge goes to the Knicks. Frontcourt. Wemby presents a problem for any team in the league because of his length and playmaking ability. The Western Conference Final MVP averaged 23.2 points and 10.8 rebounds in 17 games during his postseason. Karl Anthony Towns leads a talented front court for the Knicks that will have the opportunity to cause problems for Wemby and the Spurs. Cat has averaged 16.9 points, 10.6 rebounds, and 5.9 assists for New York in the 14 postseason games. So the edge here goes to the Spurs. The bench. The Knicks have several complementary players coming off the bench. Josh Hart is a versatile rotation player in the backcourt who's displayed the ability to play with physicality on defense and serve as a solid rebounder. Mitchell Robinson has a broken finger, but still expects to play in the finals. Keldon Johnson is the primary reserve for San Antonio, serving as a versatile wing when his number is called. Dylan Harper may only be a rookie, but he's really stepped up when needed for the Spurs in the postseason. The edge here goes to the Knicks. And in coaching, Knicks coach Mike Brown has the advantage in finals experience. Brown led LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers to the NBA Finals against the Spurs in 2007. He also spent time as an assistant coach for 2 championship teams. He won 3 titles under Steve Kerr with the Golden State Warriors and another in 2003 under Greg Popovich with the Spurs. It'll be the first final appearance for San Antonio's Mitch Johnson as the head coach. The edge here goes to the Knicks. And with the X factors, it's hard to ignore what impact Robinson can have on the Knicks when he is healthy. Robinson is a great size and defensive presence that could prove to be valuable. He can control the paint and secure offensive rebounds, which may prove to be helpful when the Spurs have Wemby on the floor. The Thunder, he played a key role in the Game 7 victory over the Thunder with 20 points and 6 rebounds. The edge here goes to the Knicks.
Well, there's still hockey news, and this is for the IIHF World Championship, and that is that Konsta Helenius gold gives a gold medal to Finland. make it 2 golden goals in as many years for the Buffalo Sabres. Konsta Helenius is now in the record books with teammate Tage Thompson after Finland defeated Switzerland 1-0 for the gold medal in the IIHF World Championship on Sunday in Zurich. Helenius, 20, a forward from Finland, scored the game-winning goal for Finland at 10:42 of overtime to face Finland to its first World Championship gold medal since 2022 and the third since 2019. Helenius drove from deep in Finland's offensive zone in 3-on-3 overtime hockey and shifted above the left circle, then dove to the top of the inside of the right circle, where he held off a Swiss defender and beat goalie Leonardo Giannoni for the goal that ended the tournament. Helenius is the second Sabres player in as many years to score the game-winning goal in overtime, the golden goal, in the World Championship. Thompson's goal at 2:02 of overtime in 2025 in Stockholm helped the United States win its first IIHF World Championship gold medal since 1933 with a 1-0 win against Switzerland. Helenius joined Finland's national team after the Montreal Canadiens eliminated the Sabres from Stanley Cup playoffs on May 18th. The Canadiens won the best-of-7 series 4-3, but lost to the Carolina Hurricanes in the Eastern Conference Final. We lost yesterday, but you get a chance to keep playing, and of course you want to win here, but to play for something there, that's good for me, Helenius said on May 19th during the Sabres breakup days of joining Finland for the World Championship. Helenius scored a goal with 3 assists in 9 regular season games with the Sabres and scored 2 goals in 4 playoff games. He scored 21 goals with 41 assists in 63 games with the Rochester of the American Hockey League. I think I had a great season, so if I get the chance to keep playing, I want to play, Helenius said. I want to go over and play for Finland and play for the championships. There's so many good players, it's not easy, so I think it helps a lot for next year. Meanwhile, Detroit Red Wings forward Michael Brandtzæg-Nygaard helped Norway pull off a staggering 3-2 overtime win to beat Canada and secure the bronze medal at the IIHF World Hockey Championship in Zurich. It was Norway's best ever finish at the Worlds and handed the Canadians another stunning defeat at the tournament.
And now some headlines from Major League Baseball. The O's rally for 5 in the 9th to top the Jays. Pete Alonso capped Baltimore's 5-run 9th inning with a walk-off single, as in the Orioles stunned the visiting Toronto Blue Jays 6-5 on Saturday. The Orioles rallied with 4 hits, 3 walks, and a hit batter in the 9th to end a 2-game skid. Baltimore was held to 3 singles throughout the 8 innings. Toronto's Kazuma Okamoto doubled in 2 runs in the 8th, but Toronto's winning streak was halted at 4 games. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. racked up 4 hits, including a double, and scored twice, while Ernie Clement had 2 singles as part of the Blue Jays' 11-hit attack. And around the league, for the Mets, outfielder Lee Mazzilli and manager Bobby Valentine were inducted into the New York's Hall of Fame. And with the Blue Jays, RHP Austin Voth was designated for assignment by Toronto for the 2nd time this season. And with the Padres, San Diego slugger Fernando Tatis Jr. ended his season-long homer slump with a shot in his 57th game. And the stat of the day is 4. Brian Reynolds of the Pirates, Miguel Vargas of the White Sox, MJ Melendez of the Mets, and Esquivel Tovar of the Rockies each hit a walk-off 2-run homer on Friday. It's the first time in Major League history that there were 4 multi-run walk-off homers on the same day.
After hundreds of years of baseball history, there's still something new under the sun.
Always room.
And on the field. You're listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, and the time is 30 minutes past the hour. And time now to turn to Ask Eric. And the first letter that he has here is headlined, Widowed Aunt Makes Huge Demands on Family. Dear Eric, how can I lovingly set boundaries with an aging, widowed, and childless aunt who is seeking more connection but whose long-standing, self-centered behavior, dominating conversations, disregarding others' needs, and making unrealistic emotional demands, has exhausted much of the extended family? In the last decade, I've been her main support from the family, especially during her husband's long illness, after his death, and during her more recent serious health issues. She's sensitive, lonely, and not very self-aware, yet expects frequent contact and priority attention. She has a therapist and meets with her regularly. For any decisions in her life, she goes over them endlessly with her therapist, with her friends, with her family members. So far, she rejects the idea of joining a continuing care community where she might make new friends and have better support as she grows older, far away from any family members. She expects a lot from her friends. When she needs caregiving support, I think this has strained her existing friendships. She's hurt that she is not more readily integrated into family vacations, etc. She finds herself alone at the holidays, yet she has always expressed a lack of desire to come back to our part of the country, even when invited. Her siblings aren't direct with her about how she has burned them out over the years, so she's left asking me why various members of the extended family don't include her more. How can I help her recognize that her long-standing behavior patterns are isolating her at the same time that she seeks deeper connection without alienating her or causing undue hurt? How do I guide her to make practical decisions about how to structure her life if she stays geographically far away from our family or moves closer, without ending up in an endless, repetitive conversation on these topics, as is her mode? How can I guide her to be a more reciprocal family member if she wants greater integration with and invitations from any of our nuclear families going forward? Signed, Family Lesson. Dear family, with respect, it sounds like you're taking on more responsibility than you should for your aunt's emotional intelligence. It's not your job to teach her how to be in relationship with other people, and in fact, these efforts may be disempowering her. There could be other things going on for her emotionally or mentally that create these feedback loops she gets stuck in. You can be an outstretched hand that she can follow out of the loop, but she has to take the steps. To that end, be upfront with her about what you're experiencing and what specifically you'd like to change. For instance, you might say, I want to be as helpful as you think about a potential move, but I don't have the capacity to keep discussing it. When you make a decision, let's talk about what ways I can support you. Or, with regard to other family members' distance, you might tell her, personally, I don't think they're being direct, so you should ask them about it directly. But putting me in the middle is complicating our relationship. These kinds of boundaries may be hard for her to accept or understand initially, but they'll be healthier for both of you. Dear Eric, recently my son moved into his new home. His girlfriend called her friends a few times to help. They never answered her calls. Who doesn't keep their cell phones near them? Apparently, they didn't want to help. I helped them move in that day. My wife and I helped a few days earlier. A few weeks prior, my son and his girlfriend helped the same friends move into their new home. Why are people like this? Signed, Moving Day. Dear Moving, short answer, selfishness. A lot of people don't like to move, which is why it's become kind of a litmus test for friendship. There's that cheeky adage, a friend will help you move, a good friend will help you move a body. It's no small thing to ask someone to help you carry a couch up a few flights of stairs. It's nice when friends can do it, but it's not a requirement of every friendship. Sometimes friends aren't physically able or don't have the time or simply would rather help in another way, and that's fine. What's important is that they tell you what they can or can't do in advance and live up to their word, and unfortunately, your son's girlfriend's friends failed at that second part. Here's a less catchy but still true adage: a friend will help you move, a good friend communicates clearly. This may be one of those things your son and his girlfriend need to learn through trial and error. Here's hoping they make better friends.
Our next article is some financial advice for something that's been in the news an awful lot and actually was in our state budget, and that's the cost of automobile insurance. And the headline is Driving Down Costs. 10 tips for lowering your car insurance premium. Americans seem to be spending a little more on everything lately, but for auto insurance, they're spending a lot more. Auto insurance premiums rose by about 2/3 from April 2020 through April 2026, according to federal data. The average driver paid $2,638 for full coverage insurance in 2025, Bankrate reports. Fortunately, there are several ways to reduce your premium. Here are 10 tips from the experts. First, shop around. Finding a new insurance company takes time, but the switch can dramatically lower your annual premium. An analysis by Bankrate found a swing of more than $1,000 between the cheapest and the most expensive annual full coverage premium among the largest companies. Here are the averages. USAA, $2,059. Geico, $2,167. Progressive, $2,190. State Farm, $2,686. Allstate, $3,355. Insurers use formulas to calculate premiums, typically factoring in your age, location, driving record, and credit score, among other variables. Bankrate, Insurify, and others offer online tools for comparing quotes. I would say that comparing car insurance rates is the most low-effort, high-reward way that people can save on car insurance costs, said Matt Brannon, a senior economic analyst at Insurify. Second, increase your deductible. For a quick and valuable fix that sounds scary, consider increasing the amount of cash you pay before your insurance kicks in. Many policies come with a $500 deductible. Doubling that to $1,000 can reduce an annual premium by 20 to 25%, according to Consumer Reports. Unless you're having a deductible crash every year, you're going to come out ahead, said Keith Berry, the senior auto reporter for Consumer Reports. Third, drop collision and comprehensive coverage. This sounds like another risky move, and it is if you have a really valuable car. Collision insurance covers damage to your car if you're in a crash. Comprehensive covers non-collision damage. Drivers should think about dropping both, experts say, for an older car of declining value. One insurance industry rule of thumb says you consider ending all collision and comprehensive coverage if your annual premium is more than 10% of the value of your automobile. So, if your car is worth $3,000 and you have a $1,000 deductible, the most you're going to get for it is $2,000, said Rod Batt, an insurance analyst at LendingTree. Fourth, take a defensive driving course. Some insurers will give you a discount if you take an approved driving course. It can be a little over $100 a year. Depends on the state and the insurer. And look for discounts. Auto insurance typically offers a range of potential discounts. You can possibly save by insuring multiple vehicles, bundling multiple policies from the same insurer, being a good student, serving in the military, driving fewer miles per year, owning a car with enhanced safety features, being a safe driver, being loyal to your insurance company, paying your entire premium upfront, and using AutoPay for your premium. 6. Consider a safe driving app. One way to save money on car insurance is to enroll in a driver monitoring program. The evolving technology uses an app, a plug-in device, or electronic tag to monitor your driving. The program measures speed, braking, and your propensity to drive and text, along with other factors. You can save from 10 to 30% on your policy. 7th, work on your credit score. Insurers often consider credit when setting premiums. Drivers with weaker credit pay more, though some states forbid insurers from using this factor. 8th, be a better driver. Avoid mishaps that can send your premiums up, including speeding tickets, accidents that are your fault, and drunk driving convictions. 9th, buy a cheaper car. Insurance premiums tend to be lower on vehicles that are worth less because they cost less to repair and replace. You could save many hundreds of dollars a year depending on what kind of car you're driving. And finally, review before you renew. Take a close look at your insurance policy every 6 months or so, experts advise. Make sure you aren't paying for coverage you don't need or missing out on potential savings. You should also review your policy after a major life change, such as a move, a new job, a change in commute, retirement, marriage, or divorce.
Well, if you know somebody who's ever thought about becoming a farmer, this next story is for you. It's titled Cultivating Community, a program that helps young American farmers find property of their own. When Martise Scales moved his family to a farm last fall, the life they led in Milwaukee sometimes felt a world away. Nights were dark without city lights. Their car is more likely to get slowed by a tractor than traffic. And when asked about the new norm, Scales doesn't hesitate. It's his dream come true. Scales and his wife and business partner, Amy Kroll, spent years growing their farm, Apothecary and Healing Space, Full Circle Healing, on 2.5 acres of rented land. Like many young farmers across the country, they faced obstacles in the search for farmland of their own. In November, the couple and their 4 children moved into 14 acres in rural Dodge County. The move came with the help of the American Farmland Trust, a nonprofit that operates a program connecting retiring landowners with young farmers. Scales and Kroll pay monthly rent to American Farmland Trust but run the property as if it's their own, and they expect to buy it in 2 to 3 years. We're going to be able to do everything we wanted to do for a long time, he said. The couple still plan to bring much of what they grow to Milwaukee, selling at farmers markets and donating to food pantries, and that's especially important, Kroll said, as prices rise and grocery stores close on the city's northwest side, leaving residents without easy access to fresh food. Behind the white farmhouse sits a red barn and silo, and the back acreage previously was planted in corn. The former owner left 2 ponies, a few llamas, and a goat behind. On a recent Sunday morning, the family traversed the farm to visit the animals, which now include dozens of chickens, a second goat, and a sheep. That's the best part for Max and Mason Scales, 7 and 11, who skillfully fed the animals. Harriet, just 2 years old, was a little less sure, preferring to stay hoisted on her mother's hip, while 9-month-old Rue watched the action unfold strapped to Scales' chest. The older children still attend school in Milwaukee, where they love to tell classmates they're farmers, Scales said. Scales and Kroll are a little different from the American clientele of American Farmland Trust's Buy, Protect, Sell program, said Program Director Allison Volk. Although they fit the U.S. Department of Agriculture's definition of beginning farmers who have farmed for 10 years or less, they have an established farming record and business plan, Volk said. Still, affording farmland is a challenge. The program works by placing an agricultural conservation easement on farmland the nonprofit purchased, which restricts its future uses and drives down the price so younger farmers can afford it. Scales and Kroll also often meet with a staff member from Renewing the Countryside, a Minnesota-based organization that supports rural communities. Though they still technically rent, Scales said the freedom he feels compared to previous places where he needed to play by someone else's planting rules is immense. Here, we can actually invest, he said. Kroll was the one who picked out the farm. There was just something about this one, she said. This one felt like home. There will, of course, be hiccups. Strong winds blew down the family's hoop house soon after they put it up, leaving Kroll to stash thousands of plants in their sunroom until the weather was warm enough for them to be outside. Since they don't grow commodity crops, they'll need to figure out what to do with the acres planted in corn, but they already envision what's to come. Hundreds of raised beds for fruits, veggies, and flowers to sell at markets, more animals, a fixed-up barn to host community events, a garage-turned-commercial kitchen, an orchard, a children's play area, and a spiral herb garden to treat human ailments.
Our next article is about a television documentary that's coming up on Tubi TV about a U.S. soccer player named Weston McKennie who will be starring in the series Destination World Cup 2026. And the headline is simply The Featured Player. Soccer star Weston McKennie has advice for young athletes. Bet on yourself. I had people throughout my career tell me I wasn't ready, I wasn't good enough, or I wouldn't play at a super high level. And it was just a matter of betting on yourself, McKennie says. Now, as the FIFA World Cup comes to North America, there's plenty of attention to the U.S. team and the standouts like McKennie. A Tubi documentary called Destination World Cup 2026 features McKennie, Mark Kurasela, and Harry Wilson prepping for the event. The 6-part docuseries is a way for American viewers to see why the sport is so popular worldwide. McKennie, a standout on the U.S. men's national team, has been key to boosting U.S. interest. Back in middle and high school, all the cool kids played basketball and football, he said. No one paid much attention to soccer. He, however, was smitten. Growing up in Germany, I saw the impact and the passion behind it through different cultures' eyes. Then, coming back to America, I continued with it because of a friendship I had made. Ultimately, I realized I had a chance in it, as well as that I could become a professional athlete. McKennie got the exposure when his father was stationed at Ramstein Air Base in Germany. At age 9, the family moved back to the United States and lived in Texas, where his soccer love blossomed. In the documentary, viewers can see it's not all goals and cheers. McKennie goes on 3-day fasts and turns down a family barbecue. You'll do this, and if you get fined for coming back overweight, he admits. The documentary covers those private moments too, and what the downtime is really like. I told them in the beginning, you can capture whatever you want, just as long as it's real, McKennie said. I said, I'll give you raw footage, but I don't want to do any scripted stuff. Ultimately, I do feel the responsibility. I would like to think the people can relate a lot with me, so I don't feel pressured. A midfielder for Juventus in the U.S. national team, McKennie has been called the Swiss Army knife because he can play in almost any outfield position. With the U.S. team, he scored 3 goals in 13 minutes on a CONCACAF Nations League against Cuba in 2019. 2 years later, he scored a 2-2 equalizer in the final against Mexico bringing the game to extra time. Those stellar moments, however, can land differently depending on the rest of the game. If you're losing, you get your back to the line as quickly as possible to keep playing, he says. If you're winning, or if the goal you're making makes you win, it's one of the better feelings you can have in the sport. I get excited, but it all depends on if you're losing and you score. It's a bittersweet taste. You scored? That's amazing. But you still got a little bit more work to do. McKenny says he doesn't hear the fans unless the ball goes out of bounds. Then you have a moment to zone back in with reality, he says. Once the ball is back in play, you switch again. And you're like, okay, boom, there it is. Let's get refocused. While the U.S. team isn't considered the front runner for this year's trophy, nobody is going to this World Cup with a mindset of, oh, let's just make it out of the group stage, McKenny says. You've got to show your best version of your team because that's what tournaments are all about. Coming to the United States, the World Cup could kick the sport into high gear. There's no better time for it to come to America, McKenny said. Soccer is on the rise and growing, and people are getting more involved. There's a better idea of what it means to people around the world. And McKenny, he's in it to win it. Family members say they'll have a barbecue to celebrate a U.S. win. That's a no-brainer, McKenny said with a smile. I think it's going to be much more than just a barbecue.
Well, next we have some interstellar news, and that is that scientists may have just found 10,000 planets outside of our solar system. Lurking throughout the distant cosmos beyond the solar system, researchers recently found what they believe could be another whopping 10,000 planets orbiting suns that aren't our own. The Milky Way galaxy and beyond is considered to be absolutely teeming with such worlds known as exoplanets, but so far humanity is aware of just more than 6,000 confirmed exoplanets. Using a new technique that partly relies on artificial intelligence, though, a team of scientists made a massive find that, if verified, could more than double the number of discovered exoplanets in the universe. The detection would be a major leap forward in astronomers' hunt for planets beyond Earth that could support life. The momentous revelation also comes as NASA readies for a potential launch this year of its advanced Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope, which could unlock even more new worlds. Exoplanets are planets outside Earth's solar system. For that reason, these celestial bodies are sometimes referred to as extrasolar planets. While most orbit another star, like the Earth orbits the Sun, some, called rogue planets, are floating through the cosmos untethered. As of May, a total of 6,286 exoplanets have been confirmed, according to NASA's Exoplanet Science Institute, which monitors and tracks exoplanets. What's more, not only are nearly 8,000 additional exoplanet candidates awaiting official confirmation, but billions are thought to exist, astronomers say. Researchers devised a method that allowed them to discover potentially more than 10,000 more previously undetected worlds beyond our solar system. To make the find, scientists turned to NASA's Exoplanet Hunting Transiting Exoplanet Survey Satellite, or TESS, responsible for the discovery of nearly 900 exoplanets. Implementing a machine learning process to comb through old NASA data from the first year of TESS operations in 2018 is what led them to spot 10,091 possible planet-like objects never before observed. TESS makes its discoveries by observing starlight. When a star's light dims from a satellite's vantage, that indicates a planet may be transiting or passing in front of the host star. But instead of analyzing only data from bright stars, the researchers expanded their search for planets to include another 83 million fainter stars TESS already observed. while the objects are considered mere exoplanet candidates until more evidence allows them to be officially confirmed as such. The discovery, published in a study on research repository ARXiv and awaiting peer review, is a major step forward in planet hunting techniques.
A lot of tongue twisters there.
Yes, there are.
You have been listening to a reading of articles and features from the Buffalo News for Monday, June 1st. We read the Buffalo News live on weekday and Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. and rebroadcast at 4 p.m. For more information, call 716-821-5555. Your readers today have been
Ed Howard
and Ted Pajacki. Thank you for listening and have a great day and a wonderful month.
Welcome summer with your Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. We're planning a summer bash bigger and better than ever before. It's Friday, June 26th at Creekside Banquet Facility in Grove, located at the corner of Union Road and William Street in Cheektowaga. You're invited to enjoy a buffet chicken and pasta dinner, your first drink on us, a basket raffle, and Buffalo Music Hall of Fame party band The Boys of Summer from 6 to 9 p.m. Tickets are $50 and support the 160 volunteers who read all the programming offered by Radio Reading. That's Friday, June 26th from 6 to 9 p.m. at Creekside Banquet Facility in Grove in Cheektowaga. Get your tickets now by calling 716-821-5555 extension 3 or online at nfradioreading.org. Thank you to New Era Cap Foundation, Tyverin Law, and Perry's Ice Cream for sponsoring this largest event of the year.
program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability, which